Hi, I'm Kim Wilson, your host. Welcome to another episode of I Need a Session. Tonight's topic is tough but necessary. I'm joined by my very special guest, Miss Monique Davis. She is the mother of the late Jamari Terrell Williams. Jamari was a young, beautiful soul. He left this earth over 3 years ago. He was bullied. He took his own life. He was only 10. It is my intent tonight to shine awareness on the impact of bullying. Did you know that suicide is the 10th leading cause of death in the United States for all ages? And 20% of students ages 12 through 18 have experienced bullying. I personally believe that the advocate's voice can be louder than the bully's voice at any given time. Before we go any further, I want you to meet Jamari. Take a look. Meet Jamari Terrell Williams. He was a talented, gifted dancer, honor roll student, and an active member in church. He was often described as having an old soul. He loved listening to artists like The Temptations, James Brown, and Michael Jackson. It was evident that Jamari was comfortable on stage and engaging an audience full of admirers as he performed a moonwalk without effort. May his moves and memory continue to light up the world and ignite change. Hi, I'm Kim Wilson, your host. Welcome to another episode of I Need a Session. I'm joined here today with my very special guest, Miss Monique Davis, the mother of the late Jamari Terrell Williams. Miss Monique, thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you for having me.
Yes, I have on my yellow today for suicide awareness, and I'm wearing my lemon earrings because I'm hoping that we can create some healing lemonade for those who are surviving family members and loved ones of individuals who transitioned out of this world by suicide, and those who are surviving members of families and individuals who have been impacted by bullying. So as you saw in the intro, Jamari was a wonderful, special, handsome, talented soul. And that's just where I want to start. I want to start unpacking this story by who he was. My intent for this episode is to bring awareness and healing around this topic so we can put a stop to bullying and just show how severe it is and how it can impact individuals, families, and communities going forward. So, Miss Monique, let's start with, tell me a little bit more about Jamari.
Jamari was my fifth grade 10-year-old son. He loved to dance. He had a passion for dancing. I think when he first came out the womb, that's all he did was dance. He could imitate James Brown and Michael Jackson like no other child I have ever seen. He loved to participate at church. He was a church-going child, usher boy, choir, youth, any youth activity at church he was involved in. He also played softball. He was the crossing guard at school, the video technician for their television station at the school, so jump rope team. So when I say Jamari was involved in so many activities, he was just that child that had to be involved in something and was that perfectionist and an honor roll student. I definitely can't forget that part.
Wow. From what I've read about him, he seemed to be wise beyond his years. Just kind of, I think I read that he had an old soul.
He did. Jamari was that child. He didn't listen to the normal type of music that children his age would listen to. One of his favorites were The Temptations, the Starlights, Patti LaBelle. He was just one of those kids that when we left school, when we go to school in the morning, we would listen to the Hallelujah station, which we would do the Bible challenge of the day. He would win every time, but he was just involved in things like that. And then when we came home from school, he would love to listen to Shalimar. That was his favorite group. So we would listen to home. So yes, ma'am.
Oh, he did. Shalimar, honey. He did. Oh, yes, ma'am. He did have an old soul. I mean, and you all have to Google him and you'll see this in the show notes. You have got to see him dance. I saw him do that moonwalk, honey. Yes. He could, oh, he had a mean moonwalk on him. I know if Michael Jackson was able to, and even Prince were able to witness his moves, they probably would have invited him to the stage one day.
Oh, yes, ma'am. He loved Michael Jackson. He loved James Brown. Oh, he loved doing the splits like James Brown. That was one of his favorites. But anything dealing with Michael Jackson, he had to perfect that one because he just adored Michael. So he definitely had that old soul.
Yeah. I mean, so now we're sitting inside of 2021. So it's been like a little bit over 3 years.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah. So just even talk, and I know that you do advocacy work now around cyberbullying. So I want to just kind of go back. Jamari, he left this earth on October 11th, 2017, right?
Yes.
When I just even want to go back to the day before, like what was he doing? Like, was he happy? Was he withdrawn? Like, tell me, take me inside. I want people to get to understand the world of this 10-year-old.
Okay. The day before, actually, let's go back to that Monday before. He died Wednesday. Monday, he was excited. He was asked to participate with distinguished young women. He was actually a special guest. So he performed there. One of our news anchors here actually did a bio on Jamari that particular night. So he got a standing ovation. I remember saying, Jamari, wow, they just love the way you dance. I might have to be your manager. So we just joked about that. We was always together. He always traveled to different states for different dance competitions. That Tuesday, he actually asked me, could he cook for the first time? So I helped him. He cooked a hamburger. We prepared it together. We always did everything together. He was okay. But I knew weeks prior, he was being bullied at school and at the dance studio. He was being bullied, one, because his skin complexion was darker than myself and my oldest son, my older adult son. He was being bullied because he was that honor roll student. He was being bullied because at the dance studio, he was always having the top lead roles. So you have a little jealousy there, and not only just from children, but from adults. So it really hurts me to know that adults can say mean things to a child, not realizing your words are really impacting how that child is really feeling. So I knew days prior to his departure that something was going on. If you don't mind, that particular day that it happened, I was actually scheduled to be the room mom that day. I was very active at the school. So I was at the school that day. His teacher came to me and asked me, did I receive an email? I told him no. There was a situation at school where the principal decided to talk to Jamari. He was being accused of something that he did not do. It was an investigation that particular day. They realized he did not do it. The principal took him in her office and talked to him privately without me being present. That particular day, Jamari cried. When I left, when I was leaving, he begged me not to stay at school. I remember being in the cafeteria that day, watching a class while they were eating lunch. A child threw their eating utensils at my child. I remember the child trying to trip my child, hitting my child, running after my child running around the desk trying to get away from this child. So when I was leaving, now the teacher and myself, we witnessed this. We talked about this. Jamari didn't want to stay at school that day. He cried. But for that particular day was an unusual day for me at work. I had to go back that particular day. Any other day, I could have checked him out. But that particular day, a lot of stuff was going on at work, and I had to get back to work. So he just was not happy at all. I mean, he cried. My child never cried. He loved school. He would be the first one there in the mornings. But that particular day, he cried and begged me to take him home. And I just couldn't take him home that day.
So I know you said that you and the teacher witnessed him being bullied. Prior to that, was there any other indication how did you know he was being bullied at school and at the dance studio? How did that come to your attention?
Jamari talked to me. We talked about everything. I remember one incident where I went to the dance studio. He was by himself and he was just quiet and he was ready to leave. The dance studio was basically his first home. So I knew something was wrong then. And I asked him what was wrong. He didn't want to tell me because Jamari, he didn't like controversy. He was not a controversial child at all. He loved peace. He was very compassionate about people. He just didn't like arguments. He didn't like anything like that. And I remember being at the studio one time and I popped up. The parents didn't know I just happened to pop up. And I heard an adult say something negative about my child. Well, here we go again. It's Jamari again leading the dance again. Why it always have to be Jamari? Why can't it be my child? I remember a child saying, oh, it's Jamari again. I'm sick of him. Why it always have to be him? So I have heard it myself. I would try to confront these issues. Jamari would ask me not to say anything to the parents. That particular day at school with the bullying, I wanted to confront it then, right then and there. He begged me not to. So I told Jamari, well, the next day, I'm going to handle that situation. But as we see, my next day never came. So I wasn't able to go up there. But I did go up there the next day after he died. I went up there. I definitely went up there.
You just said something very key and powerful, and I want to make sure that the viewers get this. I just did a show last week, and the individual on my show, Dr. DeAndre Peckett, one of the things that he talked about was growing up, he felt different. He didn't know he was different, but he also talked about a lot of times it starts with the adults because kids, they get it from this bullying and stuff. They get it from the adults, and we have to be mindful of the conversations we're having with other people, other adults, because kids will model that behavior and take on that energy. So that's the first thing. That's the first part of this awareness. Adults, teachers, educators, parents, aunts, uncles, grandparents, be aware of the words that you use and how we talk about other children in the company of other people. I think just even making it a practice to use our words to heal and not hurt, we start right there, just that awareness. So,
yes,
and I read too in an article that I want to go back because you did mention him being bullied about his skin color. And so I did read in an article where he asked you, was his skin too dark?
Yes, yes. And I explained to Jamari because he had a lot of concerns about him being much darker than myself and my oldest child. So I used to explain to him, there's nothing wrong with your skin complexion. I used to compare my children to vanilla and chocolate ice cream. I said, mommy just loved the variety. So your brother's vanilla and you're chocolate. So to me, I have the perfect children because I have a variety of my two favorite ice cream flavors. So we would just joke about things like that. But it was just a big deal to him that he was much darker. So that told me other people was bringing that to his attention because I always taught my children I didn't believe in skin color. We all are God's people. So I never believed in a division between colors, the color of our skin. But apparently someone was bringing that to his attention, but he would never tell me who was saying something that he was darker or his head was unusually larger than others. And I used to say, well, Jamari, the reason why your head is different from everyone else's because you have that 4.0 GPA. So you just retain a lot of information. So that's a good thing. So I say you should take that as a compliment. So when they say something to you, just laugh it off and take it as a compliment and just keep on moving. But Jamari was just so passive and he was a crowd pleaser. He loved to please everyone. So to have him having that loving spirit, and I always taught my children to do unto others as you would have them do unto yourself. If I'm teaching him that, and then he goes into the world and people are treating him differently, that's confusing to a 10-year-old. So that's why I try to make it my mission to go out there, like you said earlier, ask parents, please be mindful of what you say in front of your children, because children are not taught jealousy, hate, and envy. They're taught that. They're not born with that. They're taught that. So that's why I try my best to make sure parents know, let's just be mindful of what we say, because we are our kids' future. So we lead by example.
Yes. And one of the ways that we can make sure that Jamari legacy lives on, and we add plenty of purpose to all of that pain. One of the things that you said to me that stood out when he said, Mom, you know, he didn't want you to go to the principal. And so that right there, I want us to get used to telling, because that's how the bully gains power. When we don't, we keep their secret, you know, because, and for Jamari, he's so protective over you, so because I know I read where he didn't want you to get in trouble in his mind, because you got to remember, he's still a 10-year-old, so he's processing things a little different, so this is one of the things, like, through this, we can continue to remind children, tell it, say it loudly, because that's your superpower. Your voice is your superpower. Yeah.
Yeah.
So leading up to his death, did you see any sadness, or did he ever seem withdrawn?
Yes. That particular day after I picked him up from school, we always talk every time I picked him up from school. And I asked him, how did your day go? He didn't want to talk about it. So I was like, Jamari, did something happen? He said he didn't want to talk about it. So I actually turned my car around and I was heading back to the school. And he begged and cried me, not cried, please don't go back to the school. Just let it go. I said, okay, I'm going to let it go. But in the morning, I'm going to deal with it, because I was the one that took him to school in the morning and I was the one that picked him up. I just had a job. I was able to do that. I was blessed to have a job. I was able to do that. That particular evening, I had something planned for dinner. He asked me not to make that. He wanted his favorite dish, which was ground beef and pork and beans. So I was like, you sure? I already had the chicken out. That's what he wanted. So then he asked me for 3 green apples. And we went to the store. I said, well, let me get the whole bag. It doesn't make any sense to get 3. He said, no, I prefer 3 green apples. So I purchased the 3 green apples. That night he went in his room. He came back to my room. Mom, do you love me? I said, of course. Do you love me because I'm darker? Of course, Jamari, I love you. I mean, I was like, where's this coming from? No, I just want to make sure you love me. I said, I love you with all my heart. You know this. His brother, which is 23 at the time, went to his room, tried to play with him, talk to him. He asked his brother to leave. He didn't want to deal with his brother. He didn't want to talk to him, anything. Wednesday night, I'll never forget, Wednesday was our night, because he loved Chicago Fire, Chicago PD, Chicago Med. I thought it was kind of different because he didn't come in the room and watch those shows with me. So at 9 p.m., I never forget, I kept calling him. And normally, Jamari Routine, we have a routine. His routine, when he came home from school, he would do his homework. He would check online, make sure his GPA stayed at 4.0. He made sure that, did that every day. He would take his shower, put on his pajamas, and then he would play a little bit on his Xbox. That was kind of weird. He didn't get on his Xbox at all. He did not do any of that. He normally would conversate with his friends. He didn't do that. 9 o'clock came. I kept calling him, Jamari, where you at? You didn't take a shower yet. And that particular night, I said, Jamari, well, go ahead and take a shower. No, I'm going to let you go first. And I said, no, you normally go first. And we went backwards and forth. He said, no, I'm going to let you go first tonight. So looking back, all those were signs. I missed those signs. 9 o'clock, I remember calling his name. He didn't answer. And I thought that was kind of odd, because he normally would answer. And I went in his room, and that's when I found him. All I could think, I tried CPR, but I had already knew, because I was always trained in CPR and just to recognize different signs of death. I knew he was gone. Looking back, if I would have known there were several children in October that lost their life by suicide, like Jamari, I would have talked to him about bullying and not as using your voice as a platform, not allowing people to treat you any kind of way. I'm the type of person where I'm very outspoken. That wasn't Jamari's personality, not at all. He just wanted to get along with everyone. He would just love to put a smile on your face. He was that child that we call Smiley, and he loved to give hugs. Anybody, he would just come and give you a hug and smile, and he would just brighten up your day. So it hurts me because a child that was so outgoing, that loved people, it was words that people used against him that made him feel that he was no longer needed here on earth. So that's something that we really have to deal with on a daily basis in my household. And that's why I try to use my voice as a platform to bring awareness about bullying and suicide. And I like for children to know that it is okay to be different, because Jamari was different. He was different in his own right. And I try to tell kids that God made us different for a reason. By you being different, that makes you unique and special. So that's why I try to make sure I bring awareness as much as I can, because I never want another family to go through the tragedy that our family endure on a daily basis. Because it's not a day that goes by that I don't miss Jamari, that I don't miss our conversations, that I don't miss the laughter and the silliness that he did on a daily basis. So that's what I try to do.
Yeah, I can't even imagine a day going by without, seeing his face in your head. What's one of the questions that people ask you often that you're not in favor of, or it rubs you the wrong way?
How did he die? They
Yeah.
always want to know how did it happen? Where did it happen? I normally don't like to talk about that. I feel that's personal within our family. To me, the most important part, he's no longer here.
Yeah.
How he died, that's not the important part. The important part is he was being bullied by the color of his skin. He was being bullied because he's a boy that loved to dance. He was being bullied because he was different and he was a perfectionist. So to me, those are the important questions that we need to focus on and let our children know that it's okay. If you want to go out there and be a dancer, architect, whatever, that's you. Embrace that and do it to your full potential. So that's what I try to focus on.
Yeah, a lot of times the media, they won't mention how if there has been a suicide, they don't give those details, even if you read articles with individuals, because they want to be careful not to provide any demonstrations or sensationalize that act in any kind of way. And so just like you said, the most important thing is he's not here anymore. And so those details, how he did it, it doesn't, that's not significant at this point. So being able to, move forward and say, how can, we all become better, because his life, his legacy should live. It should live on because it means something. So even when I go back to, how was your son in the house at the time? Your
Yes. Yes, he was there. Yes.
So I know you mentioned that you went to the school the next day. How did you even have how did you even do that?
I don't know. To be honest, I don't know. I think because it was a routine. That was our routine. That I took him to school. I had to go there the next day. I needed answers. I needed someone to tell me what happened. You all dropped the ball with my child. So somebody needed to tell me some type of answers. I was calm. There was no need for me to act hysterical because I needed answers. There were some things that were said to me. I'm not going to repeat it. Actually, I'm going to say this. I had one school personnel to tell me Jamari should have known nothing was going to happen to him as far as suspension. He should have known that wouldn't have happened. So you threatened him. So that's how I took that. You threatened him. Jamari was very suspension. That was not in his vocabulary. When I tell you he was very adamant on making sure he got into a good college, his grades were where they needed to be. I mean, he was just a perfectionist. I mean, He dotted his I's, crossed his T's. Jamari had a planner. So when I say he looked at his planner every day and he planned everything out, that's the type of child he was. He was just an old soul. So when I tell you, for that school personnel to tell me that he should have known that we didn't mean we were going to suspend him, that just really didn't sit well with my spirit. Mm-hmm. But I didn't say anything, and I brought it to the attention to the school board. And so I decided to get with some legislators here in Alabama, and we got together and we needed to revamp the Student Harassment Act. Mm-hmm. Because I've seen some things in the Student Harassment Act that I thought was outdated. It never covered cyberbullying, which later on we found some things on Jamari's Xbox, people saying cruel things to him about his skin complexion and about the size of his head. I had no idea. Actually, my oldest son found it and he didn't want me to see it, but I found it anyway. But yeah, so we included cyberbullying with the new Student Harassment Act, on and off campus bullying. So it was a lot of things that we had to include to make sure that our children are safe and that they are protected at all times, and that school officials have that so they can make sure they not discipline, but make sure they take action and make sure they are trained properly to handle these type of situations. So I am so grateful to Governor Kay Ivey, because when we decided to revamp this Student Harassment Act, I had no idea that Governor Kay Ivey and at the time Representative John Knight and Representative Baker actually considered renaming the Student Harassment Act after Jamari. So the Student Harassment Act is now called the Jamari Terrell Williams Student Harassment Act. So I'm very grateful for that. So yes, ma'am.
Yes. Oh my goodness, that is so wonderful. I know, so I can tell that you've been moving very strongly in advocacy work. And I'm sure that has been part of your healing process, because anytime we can, kind of roll our sleeves up and have something to look forward to, that certainly can facilitate our healing. Were there any other ways that you tapped into healing this area? Because it's traumatic, it's trauma. And I ask that for any other surviving members who may feel stuck emotionally and they don't know how to move forward. And part of them may feel like giving up as well. So are there some other ways?
Yes, ma'am. I encourage people therapy. When I tell you therapy works well for me, I know sometimes we say, well, we don't want to talk about our problems, but when you find that professional counselor or therapist, it is a healing feeling for me. I can speak for myself. I go at least twice a week, and I tell people there's nothing wrong with it. Also, just the advocacy work. I feel that I'm continuing with his legacy, because Jamari wouldn't want me to sit up in the house and not do anything. He was a giving child. When I tell you, we used to feed the homeless all the time for Christmas. Before he opened up his Christmas presents, we would go to the homeless shelter and feed the homeless. So now what I do is I keep a bag in my car. It's called my little travel kit. And if I see someone in need, I make sure I give it to them on the side of the road. He used to love doing that. Rescuing animals, that's what he loved to do. I have 3 here right now because they're rescue animals that he found, so I still have them here. So just giving back to the community, and just if you feel that you don't have hope, we have so many resources out here. The American Foundation for Suicide Prevention, that's one big one. They're very active in the community, and they will definitely connect you with the right resources. We have a 1-800 hotline where we have licensed therapists and counselors that volunteer their time, and they talk to people on the phone. I get a lot of phone calls at night, but a lot of parents and children want to talk to me personally. I have no problem with speaking with anyone. Also, we have partnered with the district attorney, Darrell Bailey. He has a texting app where the kids can text, because we know the kids love their mobile electronic devices. So you could text, and he would definitely have somebody from his team to text you back, and they will solve that situation within 48 hours. I can guarantee you that. Actually, they will call you back in the next hour or so, but they would definitely have some type of resolution to that problem within 48 hours. So I'm so grateful to different law enforcements that have partnered with our foundation. So I'm very grateful.
Well, fantastic. I certainly feel like I know Jamari a little bit better today. Um, I want you to tell me, and it's going to be in the show notes. Give the name of the organization one more time. I have donated to this organization because I believe in the work, and I want you all to donate as well. The link is going to be provided below in the show notes. So just so we can hear it, tell us the name and where they can find out more information on your foundation.
Okay, it's Jamari, Jamari Terrell, Terrell Williams, Williams Foundation. We are a nonprofit 501c3, and we're always out there doing speaking engagements. I travel state to state telling his story, and it's just amazing to me how different states, different children in different states know his story. So to me, that's a blessing in itself that children are aware. And I just feel that telling his story can save another life. So the more awareness that I bring, I'm helping other children out here in the community and other adults. So yes, ma'am, you can Google his name and all the information will pop up. We have, let me see. We have a 1-800 number. I'm sorry, I'm getting older now, so I have to think. It's 1-800-261-7097. Once again, it's 1-800-261-7097. Everything that we talk about, if you call, anything we talk about is confidential, and we will direct you in the right direction to the appropriate resources that may be needed for that particular phone call. So we're here. Just know help is available. And I just thank you for allowing me to be here to tell Jamari's story one more time. So I definitely appreciate that.
Absolutely. Amen. Miss Monique, may the world speak and know his name. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.